Cyclists. I'm joined now by Donnachadh McCarthy, who's the founder of Stop Killing Cyclists. Donnachadh, I would imagine that you are sympathetic with the fact that SUVs just aren't appropriate for many inner-city urban areas. But is it right to go about deflating people's tyres when someone's decided to own that car?
I agree. From an organisation that has to deal with the families of people who are killed tragically on our roads, especially in London, the European Transport Safety Council said there needs to be a ban on SUVs in cities. You said that there was an 8% increase in fatalities from SUVs. That's not correct. It's actually, the Journal of Safety Research says it's 8 times more dangerous. So it's 8 times more dangerous to have SUVs on our roads for our kids. The other thing I think understandable when this group says that one of the reasons why they staged this protest deflating the tyres is that the reaction from the government to this terrible tragedy in Wimbledon has been pretty destructive. It's not just SUVs that's causing the problem. The government is proposing to reopen LTN rat runs, which actually triples the number of crashes in residential areas. And they're also talking about changing the speed limit from 20 to 30 in towns and cities, which increases the number of people killed by tenfold. So we have here a war on kids by our government, backing this so-called war on motorists.
I mean, but, you know, someone who does live in London and has a car, I mean, I rarely drive it around London. I have it to get out of the city because driving around London is hellish, in part because of 20-mile-per-hour roads. And it's not just by schools. You know, this is the thing. You go over some of the big bypasses in London, 4 lanes of traffic, and everyone's just creeping along at 20 miles per hour. That seems to me a little bit heavy-handed.
Well, if you go on the other side, if every 300 metres, 400 metres, you have to check what speed limit you are, then drivers will complain that they're being confused and they're a cash cow by local councils. Having a clear speed limit that drivers understand in urban areas, I think is a really positive for both drivers and for our kids. I mean, you know, what we're talking about is really serious. Difference between 20 miles per hour, Alex, and 30 miles per hour is it's 10 times more people are killed. Surely, for the sake of that, in urban areas, drivers accepting 20 miles per hour, I think it's a positive.
Let's go back to tyre extinguishers, and their campaigns have damaged at least 60 vehicles in this one event. And apparently they've been going about doing this and attacking cars willfully up and down the country, from Scotland to Wales to England. I mean, would it not be best for them to just lobby the government against SUVs in urban areas? And do you think the government needs to, or local councils need to impose legislation saying if your vehicle is not a commercial vehicle and weighs more than X amount of tonnes, or is whatever it is dimensions, you know, and you have to go on the channel and you have to put in the height of your car and stuff and, you know, measure it all out, or go on a ferry. So people should be able to find that information out. Do you think that it's about time that local authorities said we don't want these big vehicles because our roads don't seem to have the capacity for them? They're not wide enough.
Yeah, I mean, 100% agree. I think many in France, they're actually moving that direction, that they're charging cars by the size that they are. And I think if what you're saying is absolutely right. Why should we have 2.5-ton tractors in inner cities? Their point is only something like 1% to 2% of SUVs ever go off-road. They're not needed. You know, absolutely, if you're a farmer, have an SUV, or if you have got a woodland that you need to look after, have an SUV. But for 99% of people, they are pointless and they're a danger in roads. And I don't know whether you have kids or not, Alex, but I've seen many parents with kids trying to walk down the pavements in inner city areas where the tractors are blocking the pavements. And so you're right, local councils need to act, and we need to observe what the European Transport Safety Council says and get SUVs out of the cities and back to where they need to be, on farms and woodlands.
Yeah, do you know, I must admit, I'm semi-sympathetic to this. I live down a tiny little Mews Street in London, and parking places are at an absolute premium. The minute you got an SUV coming down, everyone's wing mirrors are clipped, and they take up about 2 parking spaces as well. But, you know, we live in a free society, don't we? And there might be people out there saying, look, I've got 3 kids, 4 kids. When we go on holiday, when we go camping, I need to have a large vehicle. And frankly, what's the difference between having a people carrier and an SUV when it comes to the weight and the bulk of the vehicle?
Well, the weight and the bulk of the vehicle and the height of the vehicle means that you can't see a kid on a bike or on a pedestrian in front of you. I mean, I don't know, I'm sure many of your viewers will have seen those pictures on on Instagram where you've got a 10-year-old kid standing in front of an SUV and the driver can't see them. So if you do need a larger vehicle once a year, hire it. Why pay for more expensive vehicle for the rest of the year and clog up the road space on your street, take up the parking space or take up the paving space? If you're on a wheelchair going down pavements around where I live, often you can't get past because the SUV is overhanging the pavement and the person on the wheelchair has to go out onto the road to pass the SUV parked on the pavement.
So I'm going to say something shockingly sexist now. You're going to love this. I actually seem to find that the Chelsea tractors are largely driven by pretty minuscule women who can barely see over the steering wheel, don't know how to do a three-point turn, and as a result it's like having the Bibby Stockholm trying to manoeuvre in the middle of a street. I'm a very good parker, by the way, but I don't